The Brotherhood's siege is in vain. I am Dracul, Prince of Darkness.
Hello there, Seraphim17 once again. This is my Castlevania Lords of Shadow 2, Prince of Darkness difficulty video walkthrough. That was me just getting romped by those horned demon creatures, and I don't recommend it, because they have a very dangerous running attack, and he blindsided me around the other side of the car. But we're making our way towards another district in the present or future, depending on what you want to call it, and we're going to be introducing ourselves to a hooded character. And if you've been paying attention in the previous game, you'll probably have a good grasp of who this is, or who this person is associated with, but I'll not say anything for the basis of spoiler bait. But outside here, you're going to notice enemies have been repopulated. It's the standard generic dudes. They've now got fire axes and poles and stuff. So if you're low on life like I am, you can use them to feed a little bit, or you can use your void sword to get that HP back. And I'm going to fight them needlessly to try and do exactly that. So I'm going to talk about the challenges, because there's a design choice in all of the challenges that I really dislike, and I need to cover it because it was pissing me off earlier. So the notion of challenges, additional challenges in action games, is not a new notion. It's been there forever. A lot of games have them. A lot of games do them well. A lot of games do them poorly. Mostly, recently, they do them poorly. This game does them poorly. So the trials themselves are set out into brackets. There's 4 brackets. First one has 3, second one has maybe 3, next one has 4, last one has 5. It's something along those lines. And each of them have 4 challenges, the 4th one being do all the challenges in one attempt. Or like one run rather than one attempt. You can try it as many times as you like. And the challenges themselves range from pointless to stupid, and pretty much nothing in between. There's a handful of them that are actually fun, because you can just do one objective and then summon the dragon and kill everybody, and they feel hilarious. But for the most, they're kind of a frustrating mess, because they're not challenging, they're just boring. And that's not the problem I have with them, by the way, guys. My problem is a mechanical issue. So whenever you go into a challenge area in a game, it's supposed to be a sideline to the game. For instance, there's a game called God Hand, and I've been playing it recently, and it's one of the hardest games I've ever played, but it's developed and designed really well, and it's fair for the most. They have a challenge arena. I went to this challenge arena with very low life and very low tension, I think it's called, because I wanted to refill it before a boss, because the boss was kicking my ass and I didn't have a lot of life, so I wanted a better chance of fighting him. So I went to the arena thinking, if I went in the arena, I'd get a heal from it. So I go to this arena, I do the first challenge, and when it starts, my life and my tension bar have both been filled. And I'm like, awesome, I'm going to get out of this, I'm going to go and fight the boss, and it's all going to go smooth, I'm going to learn him, I'm going to beat him, I'm going to continue this extremely difficult game. My life was filled, my tension was filled for this fight, I did it, and then when I came out, my life went back to what it was before. So it hadn't healed me, but it had healed me for the fight in the tournament. And it had done that because it's a good game, and it's how games should be designed. What Lords of Shadow does is baffling. Not only does the game refuse to heal you under any circumstance because they've already given you several ways to do it, it doesn't refill your magic when you use it on a failed attempt. Instead, it saves the state of what your magic was doing. Very reminiscent to 2001 Devil May Cry. When you used an item on that game, it saved it when you used the item, and when you retried, you lost the item. And it was one of the most frustrating things for newer players. And it sucked. And this is 2014, and this game has absolutely no idea how to handle additional challenge content. Because instead of making it an area that's isolated, they've made it so that if you fuck up, and you will because of the bullshit that's therein, you have to traverse the world to refill your character to try again. Relics that you use get saved on unsuccessful attempts. You can literally use the relic to give you unlimited chaos magic for a certain amount of time, fail an objective the second it begins, and when you press restart, you will have wasted it. Your magic will be down to whatever it was that you used, your life will be down to whatever it was that you got hit. And I think it's ridiculous and stupid, and I don't understand why it exists. It's bad. There's no other word for it. The only person who likes that are the people who do pain plus runs on games like God of War, where they restrict themselves so much that the game itself is at the most brutal difficulty level it could feasibly be at, and the people playing it have played the game so much that it's almost a science, it's almost mathematics at that point. They don't even see the game anymore, they just see how they can exploit it and how they can, you know, use hours of practice and repetition to beat it. And there's nothing wrong with that, it's just nobody wants to do that unless you're that kind of person, or unless you love the game. So for this game to have such a poorly designed way of handling things in an optional challenge area, it just doesn't make any sense. It really doesn't, and it's bad. But luckily enough, once you do it, you'll never have to do it again. And I shouldn't have to say that about anything in a game, because games at this point, to me, should have got to the point where they're so good, it's difficult to have bad. Because they're all so expensive, they all take so long to come out, and they're all so recycled that nobody dares to take a risk anymore, nobody dares to do something different. And the irony here is, this game really did try to do something different, but every single thing they changed, they pretty much changed for the worst. Aside from a certain amount of, you know, mechanical problems that were present in the last game. And it's just... I've already mentioned that I really like the game, and I do, but it has so many problems that I don't think many people are going to be able to look past. You know, I've already seen people who say they played the demo, didn't like the demo, and won't play the game. And I do think that those people are missing out on a great game, but I completely get what they mean. The demo was just so underwhelming, and what makes it even worse is, the demo was the beginning of the game. So, for the people who weren't impressed by your demo, if you start your game with your demo, they're not even going to want to play the game. It's crazy. It's really crazy. And this next fight, there's no checkpoint. Between the previous fight on the other street, past those 2 loading zones, to this area. And I know this because I got killed here by the people with guns. And I had to do the previous fight. When I dropped down, I had to go through the sewers, I had to wait for the door, and then I had to do this again. And look at what's happening. Did you see that? Completely unblockable gun hits that took nearly half of my life. The projectiles just... And it's funny because I had a rather heated conversation with a guy called Big Benedict, who's a massive Lords of Shadows fan. And he left a comment on one of my videos for the demo, basically saying that he didn't think there was anything wrong with the game, he thought it was all improvements, and, you know, he liked it a lot, which is awesome for him. But there's plenty wrong with the game, so I probably overzealously made a massive paragraph of things wrong with it, and we had a little bit of a back and forth. And I asked him what his favourite boss was, or what he thought the hardest boss was on the game, and he told me he had not beat the game yet, which is understandable because he's you know, he's a busy guy. And I'm wondering if he's got to the gun stuff, if he's got to, you know, some of the aspects of this game that really drain the fun. Like, I'm wondering if he's done any of the challenges, because this particular person, if you've never heard of him, he's called Big Benedict. He's got some fantastic walkthroughs on YouTube. He does pretty much all the hardest games that exist. He's probably covered them at some point, and he does them on the hardest difficulty, and he does extremely, you know, clear and eloquent play-by-play commentary. And I'm just so excited to listen to his thoughts on this game, because I already know they're going to be so different to mine. But my biggest fear is that he's not going to be able to see the problems because of how much he loves the game and how much he loves the series. And I get it completely, but I'd like him to be more critical of things, because some things are just baffling, completely baffling. And he's capable of being critical, because he shit on a game I love, which is called Metal Gear Rising, and he didn't like it at all. It just didn't agree with him, you know. He wasn't a fan of the Devil May Cry, so I know inside him there's this bitter cynicalness that can come out and appraise things, but he just, you know, he's too grateful that he's getting a game in his favourite genre to really go over it and critique it. So I'm curious as to what that guide will be, and if you're a fan of his and you watch his stuff, you'll probably see me in the comment section as I voice my disagreements, or I voice, you know, certain aspects. But I am curious if he's got to the challenges, which is what I was talking about before I went on a tangent, because he made a guide for Dante's Inferno's challenge section, and I played Dante's Inferno. I thought it was a really fun God of War clone. I didn't think it was anything truly special, but it did everything it needed to, and I had a lot of fun with it. I didn't touch the challenges at all, because it's just not my thing, and I know he's done God of War challenges, I know he's done Dante's Inferno, so logic dictates he'll probably cover this, and I'm really curious to see what he thinks, because the guy knows difficulty. That's what he does, you know. It's just fact. So I'm interested to think if he sees them as hard, or if he just sees them as this boring, tedious waste of time with these arbitrary restraints that steal all the fun, because that's pretty much what I think. And one thing people need to bear in mind, guys, is this is my video and I'm sharing my thoughts, and that's how it's made to be. If yours are different and you completely disagree with me, that is fine. Like, you might love them and that's awesome, but you're gonna never convince me of that awesomeness, because I don't think they're good. And it's more upsetting than anything else, because I'm missing out on a rather large part of the game. And I'm going to play them and I'm going to do them. In fact, after I finish this commentary, I'm probably going to finish them up, you know, for better or for worse, because I'm really not enjoying them. But what it always makes me think of is what they could have put there instead. And I'll always be that guy who looks at the grass on the other side and notices that it is significantly greener. And it all stems from Boss Rush. I'm a massive fan of Boss Rush, and it must be because I like shoot-'em-ups. But the one thing games nowadays do poorly is allowing you to replay sections of them. Every so often a game comes along that handles it beautifully, but there's no consensus in this mechanic. It's not something that's ubiquitous yet. So you have to play them again to do your favourite boss fight or to watch your favourite cutscene. And a Boss Rush mode makes that completely simplified. It just gets rid of all the issue. That right there, guys, I died in this room, if you're wondering. And what happens is the checkpoint is all the way back down on the street, which I'm not the biggest fan of said checkpoints. But that right there that I just used, when you purchase it, I don't know the name, but you hold the left trigger and you hold Y, and he does this charged vacuum move that does continual damage. And it's a room clearer, man. It's so powerful, and it barely takes any chaos bar. And currently I'm doing the challenges, as I've mentioned. I've got a full chaos bar, so I can do that move and I can loop it and just trap enemies and they can't do anything. It's insanely powerful. And there's a part of me that's really glad that I didn't use it too much in the guide, because it's too powerful. Like, you might remember on the first game there was the ultimate white magic and the ultimate, you know, dark magic, and both of those things were far too powerful. Like, that last boss, aside from the Ikaruga bullshit of stepping through the different coloured polarity nonsense, he was easy because of that reason, because you could just keep using those super ultimate attacks. And it was also easy because the boss fight itself was kind of poor. But a little bit more mild traversing and what have you. And now we get to ride a propane tank, which, you know, why not? You're Dracula, you can't just turn into a bat and fly over there. You're going to do it in the Art Nouveau version, the more modern post-realism attempts. But we're coming up against a couple of tough fights in this next part. And before we can do that, we have to press this switch. And this switch is apparently going to restore the power, which I find hilarious, because to get through this door, we have to turn the power off. To get through the other door, we have to turn the power on. Like, what is it with these doors that don't work the same, aside from, you know, the arbitrary loading traps, which is exactly what they are. But we're in the arts district, and I'm throwing daggers because I thought I had missed on, and I don't. And what's going to happen is there's going to be a ton of guys with guns. A ton of them. Absolute ton of them. And I'm thinking, can I get back this other way? Because I really don't want to fight this enemy right now. You know, I've got full life, and it's not going to last against people with unblockable bullet attacks. So I come back over here hoping there's something I've missed. There isn't. You know, I've got to go back round, loop around and climb up. And it involves killing these guys. And if there was one of these and a bunch of the standard things, it'd be fun. You know, if there was just maybe two of them, it'd be fun. Or if you use this move, it's kind of fun. But once again, it's an insanely powerful move, and the point of this walkthrough is not necessarily to rely on insanely powerful moves if I can help it. Although the mist is the best move in the game, and I don't think people realise it yet, but they will in time. But did you see that animation? That was an execution animation, and it took like 40 minutes. What is he playing at, dude? Just kill the guy and let me kill the next one. And another thing that winds me up, seeing as I'm mentioning some of the things that really do irk, I'm not too sure if I've mentioned the grab yet. I think I have, because what they've done to it is just unforgivable. And if you watch these videos closely, you're going to see instances of times where normally you could grab people on the ground in the last game, and on this game the grab has no priority. You can't grab them, and you have to wait for them to stand up, and the time it takes them to stand up, you could have lost half your life by the arsehole on the other side. Like, the grab will miss from 2 yards. I'm not even kidding. And he has a whip. A whip! That in the last game, he used to pull people to him like some kind of, you know, crazy S&M psychopath. But in this one, he's got this fashionable hand blood whip thing that he doesn't use to pull dudes to him. Unless it's mapped to a different button and I didn't find it. Because I took the box with me when I went into the bathroom to have a nice reading session of the instruction booklet, and to my surprise, there was not an instruction booklet. Well, I say surprise. Games, it's changing so fast. It really is. It makes me sound old when I say things like that as well. But one of the most exciting parts of gaming for me was buying a game on Saturday, you know, early morning from the market for like the PlayStation or the N64. And then on the bus journey home, reading the instruction manual, learning about the story, about the characters, about the controls, about some of the things I was going to be doing. And it was a beautiful experience that there are people watching this video who've never had, because that doesn't exist anymore, because nobody gives a fuck. They're too busy being conscious about trees and paper and recycling, which are very important things to be conscious of, but give us a fucking booklet, man. It's bullshit. And I understand that they're all online now, it's digital, it's like bills, you know, get your bills online, that way when you can't blame the postman when you don't pay them. Like, everything is digital or in PDF format. It's just such a barrier to entrance, and there's something undeniably awesome about holding things in your hand. You know, it's the reason why people read books when Kindles are so easy. You know, it's the reason for a lot of things. It's the reason people write on paper rather than typing, because there's something physical about those older methods of writing and communication, and it's the exact same with games. Like, the instruction booklets have died out for a really good reason, because nobody gave a fuck about them anymore, and it got to the point where they were so neglected that all they generally do these days is tell you what epilepsy is, and then go on to say that if you have it, you shouldn't play games, and if you do play games and you have epilepsy and you start dancing, that you're probably going to bite through your tongue and die. And that is it. And epilepsy is a real thing, jokes aside. It's a terrible ailment, and it would suck to have it, and you know, if you do, and you're a sufferer, be it mild or extreme, it is unfortunate, and it sucks, man, but I want to know how to do stuff in a game, and I want to know why I should be invested in the fancy world. I don't want to know what happens when parts of someone's brain doesn't work. And I know that probably sounds incredibly selfish, but an instruction booklet is to tell me how to play the game, not cover your ass like a fucking lawyer document, you know? All they do is tell you to play in a well-lit room with 48 hours worth of sleep and a cushion under your eyeballs. Like, nobody plays games in that environment. It just doesn't happen. Unless you're, I don't know, a psychopath, or the person who's writing the spiel in the booklets that replaced the good stuff. Like, can you remember when booklets had maps? Maps! Maps for games that didn't have maps. So this was somebody who loved the project so much and had this vision that they just, you know, fuck it, we'll make a map. That doesn't happen anymore. You just get a pamphlet telling you what DLC you're going to be buying in 6 months that you'll probably be just as deflated about than the fact there wasn't a manual. And it's just crazy. And it's perfect for this kind of game, because the journal does tell you quite a lot of stuff, but it also does it in such a pretentious way that it doesn't really help. You know, you have to press several triggers before you get to the path that you actually need, and a lot of them just give you some fancy description. They don't actually tell you what it does, which this ain't Dark Souls, baby. We could do with a concise piece of information that just isn't there. And so yeah, 2014, the year of reviving booklets. Are you with me, boys and girls? I hope you are, because it's something magical that we've now lost. It's something sacred.